unaware of the jaguar in pursuit. One of the raiders moved to intercept jaguar but was attacked by the wild beast. Welcome to Cephastock Movie Recaps. Today we'll be diving into Apocalypto in details. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share your thoughts in the comments section. Your support means the world to us. Thank you, my dear friends. As they say, a powerful civilization cannot be conquered from the outside until it first crumbles from within. The movie begins in the dense jungles of Mesoamerica, where a group of hunters is on a mission to catch a wild boar. The chase is intense and prolonged, with the boar refusing to go down without a fight. The hunters eventually drive it toward a prepared trap. After it falls in, the final kill is made by a hunter named Jaguar Paw. The group gathers around, jubilant at their success. Jaguar skillfully butchers the boar, distributing the prized inner parts among the hunters as tokens of appreciation. In a playful gesture, he gives the boar's balls to a hunter named Blunted, joking that he needs him to man up since he's the only one among them without children. Blunted reluctantly accepts the gift, pressured by the group's laughter. To their amusement, he eats them raw, unaware that it's a prank. Overwhelmed and embarrassed, he confronts Jaguar, leading to a scuffle. Jaguar's father, Flint Sky, steps in to break up the fight. Taking Blunted aside, he speaks to him about his struggle to conceive a child, offering advice. Flint Sky tells him about a powerful remedy, the soanzo leaf, which he claims will help. Excited, Blunted wants to consume it immediately, but Flint Sky explains that it must be applied just before intimacy. Blunted returns to the group, hopeful that his time to become a father is near. Meanwhile, Jaguar senses something unusual in the forest. Alerting the others, they turn toward the source of the disturbance. When Jaguar calls out for whoever is hiding to reveal themselves, a group of traumatized refugees emerges. Recognizing their distress, Flint Sky calms his tribesmen and introduces himself to the newcomers. The refugee leader offers fish as a peace offering and requests safe passage through the forest. In return, the tribesmen share part of the boar. The refugee leader explains that their lands have been ravaged, forcing them to search for a new home. Curious, Jaguar tries to learn more, but Flint Sky stops him. On their way back to the village, Flint Sky warns the group to keep the encounter to themselves. Noticing his son's unease, he reassures Jaguar to stay strong and not let the refugees' fear infect him. Back in the village, Blunted faces another challenge. His mother-in-law confronts him, demanding a grandchild. She scolds him and threatens to replace him if he fails to deliver. Blunted's wife tries to calm her mother, but this only intensifies her demands. She now insists on twins. To add to the pressure, she sits nearby to ensure her demands are fulfilled immediately. Elsewhere, Jaguar plays with his young son, enjoying their carefree moments. They later join his pregnant wife, who is expecting their second child. Suddenly, Blunted bursts out of his house, distressed. He had used the soanzo leaf without heeding Flint Sky's warning about its potency. The remedy had an overwhelming effect, not only on him but also on his wife, who frantically calls for water. The incident becomes the talk of the village, providing everyone with a hearty laugh, especially Flint Sky. That evening, the tribe gathers for storytelling. The eldest member recounts the tale of a man who was lonely and sad, but approached by animals offering him gifts to make him happy. He asked for keen vision, which he got from a vulture, strength from a jaguar, and the serpent's secrets of the earth. While the man seemed content at first, but the animals realized he just grew greedy, wanting more and more until there was nothing left. The story serves as a cautionary reminder of humanity's insatiable nature. After the story, the mood shifts to celebration. Music fills the air and the tribe dances joyously. Jaguar takes the opportunity to bond with his family, feeling the movements of his unborn child dancing to the beats. Still asleep in the early morning, Jaguar is plagued by a nightmare featuring the refugee leader, who warns him to run. He wakes up startled, his mind heavy with unease, but tries to convince himself that all is well. Elsewhere in the forest, a warrior commander named Zero Wolf leads a band of ruthless warriors, intent on their next conquest. Jaguar senses something amiss. His instincts are correct. The warriors have surrounded the village. Jaguar is the only one awake when the attack begins. He manages to fend off one attacker and sneaks away with his pregnant wife and young son. The warriors unleash chaos, burning huts and subduing villagers. In the chaos, Jaguar lowers his wife and child into a deep pit using a rope, ensuring their temporary safety. However, he is ambushed by another warrior. After a brutal fight, Jaguar kills the attacker and secures the rope for his family to climb out later. The village is overrun. Flint Sky, Jaguar's father, tries to resist but is overwhelmed. When Jaguar intervenes to protect him, he almost kills the attacker. Zero Wolf stops Middle Eye, one of his men, from killing Jaguar, intending to keep him alive for now. Furious, Middle Eye discovers that Flint Sky is Jaguar's father. Seizing the moment, he slits Flint Sky's throat while Jaguar, bound and helpless, watches in horror. Jaguar is then knocked unconscious. When Jaguar regains consciousness, he finds himself and the remaining villagers taken captive. The once thriving village lies in ruins, reduced to ashes and death. Blunted weeps for his wife, who is being tortured. The captives are tied together by their necks with bamboo poles. Snake Inc., one of the raider captains, notices Jaguar repeatedly glancing toward the pit where his family is hiding. Suspicious, Snake Inc. investigates. Discovering the body of their fallen comrade and a rope tied to the pit, he drops a stone into it but hears nothing. To ensure no survivors, he cuts the rope, leaving Jaguar's wife and child trapped inside. As Jaguar is marched away with the other captives, he sees the severed rope rolling into the pit and realizes his family is now stranded. The younger children left behind in the village are vulnerable and helpless, some following the captives in desperation. The raiders burn the village, leaving it a mass grave. Inside the pit, Jaguar's son, Turtle's Run, is injured during the commotion. A short distance from the village, the captives join another group of raiders who have captured the refugees Jaguar's tribe had encountered the day before. Zero Wolf checks on his son, helping him with his bruised face, before the journey continues deeper into the jungle. As the captives march, a wounded man tied to the same bamboo pole as Jaguar grows too weak to continue. Middle Eye, ruthless and unyielding, forces the group to keep moving by beating them. The captives eventually reach a forest river, still bound to the bamboo poles. The children who had been following their parents can no longer keep up. They cannot cross the river. One mother prays desperately for her children's survival before being forced to move on. Back in the pit, Jaguar's wife tends to their son's wounds, improvising stitches with ant heads. The brave boy endures and the small family clings to hope, determined to survive. As the journey continues, the wounded captive stumbles again, falling off a cliff. The other captives, including Jaguar, manage to pull him back up with immense effort. Middle Eye, impressed by their brute strength, cruelly kills the man, cutting him loose and pushing him to his death. Zero Wolf notices the delay and reprimands Middle Eye for his arrogance, warning him not to act as if he's in command. If Middle Eye wants authority, Zero Wolf challenges him to go through him first. Middle Eye backs down and the journey recommences. At night in the pit, Jaguar's wife, Seven, still trapped with their son, Turtles run. Elsewhere, Zero Wolf sits with his own son, speaking to him with pride and love. As a gesture of trust and affection, he gives his son his prized blade, a treasured symbol of their bond. Meanwhile, the captives huddle together in quiet grief, praying for their fallen loved ones. Blunted is overcome with sorrow as he recalls the death of his wife. Fueled by rage and despair, he vows to take as many raiders as he can with him when his time comes. Jaguar, knowing his wife and child remain trapped in the pit, prays fervently for the rain to hold off. His desperation is palpable, each plea a battle against nature itself. Along the way, a falling tree nearly crushes several of them, but they narrowly avoid disaster. As they press on, the group passes through a small village ravaged by plague. The scene is grim, with death and suffering everywhere. A sick child, a young girl infected with the plague, approaches the group but is shoved aside by a raider, fearful of contagion. The girl locks eyes with Jaguar as if she recognizes him. Seizing the moment, she uses the raider's fear of her illness to her advantage. She issues a chilling prophecy. There will be darkness during the day, and a man who runs with the Jaguar will rise from the mud to the earth. He will bring you to those who will end your world. The raiders are unsettled, but they continue their march. Eventually, the group arrives at a Mayan city. Along the way, they pass slaves working in lime quarries, their bodies wasting away from exposure to the harmful minerals. The air is thick with despair as they traverse areas of scorched forests, failed maize crops, and plague-stricken villages. During a brief moment, Jaguar speaks with the refugee leader he met earlier, asking if he knows where they are being taken. The leader is unsure but has heard of a place nearby where the earth bleeds. Further along, they encounter an old man suffering from a laughing sickness. He clings to Jaguar, crying out for help, but Jaguar is too afraid to respond, confused and helpless in the face of the man's strange affliction. As they near the city outskirts, the environment shifts. The people here appear more civilized than the captives, though the streets are overcrowded and chaotic. The male captives are prepared for a ritual, their bodies painted entirely in blue. Female captives, however, are sold as slaves. Commander Zero Wolf uses this opportunity to introduce his son to the trade, encouraging him to negotiate with the slave traders, a calculated attempt to gradually integrate him into their brutal system. The wealthy elite of the city, marked by their green-painted attire, carefully select slaves for purchase. The transactions proceed until chaos erupts when someone drops money into the crowded streets. A frantic struggle ensues as people scramble for the fallen coins. Amid the commotion, an elderly female captive is freed by her captors, deemed too old to be sold. This woman is Blunted's mother-in-law. The male captives, now painted in blue, were dragged through a tunnel adorned with wall art. The ominous imagery depicted their impending fate: death, nothing else. As they emerged, they saw the Grand Step Pyramid where sacrifices were already underway. The crowd was enormous, frenzied with excitement. eagerly awaiting the captives' blood to ensure the prosperity of their people. The captives were paraded through the throng, which chanted in anticipation. Women blessed their children with the sacrificial blood, and the wealthy elites, painted in green, were carried through the masses to their VIP sections. The purpose of the event was painfully clear: death and bloodshed in service of the gods. One by one, the captives were led to the top of the pyramid, where masked priests and the leader of the royal family awaited them. Zero Wolf handed over his captives, stepping back to observe the proceedings. The high priest, adorned in ceremonial garb, addressed the crowd in a booming voice. He recounted their history of hardship, plagues that ravaged their crops, sickness that plagued their people, and the shame of their city's weakness. But now, he declared, they were strong and chosen by the gods to rise as the masters of time. Calling upon their deity, Kukulkan, the high priest implored the god to accept their sacrifices as a token of gratitude and to prepare for his glorious return. One by one, the captives were sacrificed. The high priest cut out their still beating hearts before beheading them, all to the roar of the crowd. Jaguar watched in horror as his friend Curl Nose was among those killed. His mind wandered to his wife and son, trapped in the pit, and for a moment, Seven seemed to feel his anguish from afar. Blunted, overwhelmed with despair, whispered a farewell to his companions. But Jaguar refused to give in, muttering to himself that he would not die today. When it was Jaguar's turn to be sacrificed, a solar eclipse darkened the sky. The high priest and the emperor exchanged knowing smiles as the crowd below erupted in panic. The phenomenon mirrored the prophecy of the sick girl, who had foretold darkness during the day. The high priest seized the moment, declaring that Kukulkan was satisfied with their offerings and had brought darkness as a sign of his favor. He prayed for the return of light, and as the eclipse passed, the crowd roared in awe. With the sacrifices deemed complete, the remaining captives were ordered to be disposed of. Zero Wolf took the captives to a ball court. His son, Cut Rock, stood at the far end ready to finish any survivors. The captives were released in pairs, forced to run the length of the field while Zero Wolf's men used them for target practice. They were cynically promised freedom if they survived the run. Smoke Frog was struck by a heavy stone and fell, while Blunted was impaled by a dart. Smoke Frog was then finished off by Cut Rock. Next came Jaguar and the refugee leader. They dashed forward, with Jaguar running in a zigzag pattern to avoid the projectiles. The refugee leader was struck and killed, and Jaguar was grazed by an arrow shot by Zero Wolf. Meanwhile, a gravely wounded Blunted, still defiant, tripped Cut Rock, delaying him momentarily before being smashed to demise by him. Jaguar surprised Cut Rock by driving an arrowhead into his neck, killing him. Zero Wolf and his men were stunned to see one of their own fall to the captives. As Cut Rock bled out, Zero Wolf comforted his dying son before vowing to finish Jaguar himself. Jaguar, now armed and determined, fled into a withered maize field. Zero Wolf's men followed closely behind. Unknowingly, Jaguar stumbled into a mass grave of sacrificial victims but managed to climb out quickly. The pursuers were relentless, their chase leading them deeper into the jungle. Jaguar, wounded and exhausted, climbed a tree to rest briefly. However, the blood from his wound dripped onto Middle Eye, the last of the pursuers. Unfortunately, Jaguar Paw had been hiding in a real jaguar's lair, growling in its territory. That can't be good for him. Reaching a certain point, the raiders realized Jaguar Paw had stopped ahead. They noticed blood on Middle Eye's back and looked up, suspecting he was hiding in the trees. Unbeknownst to them, Jaguar Paw was also being chased by a jaguar. As they scouted the area, they spotted Jaguar Paw running on the other side of the forest and immediately resumed their pursuit. Unaware of the jaguar in pursuit, one of the raiders moved to intercept Jaguar but was attacked by the wild beast. The jaguar mauled him to death, forcing the others to stop and deal with the animal. As they fought the jaguar, Jaguar Paw used the distraction to escape further into the jungle. The events left some raiders unnerved, causing them to reflect on the prophecy of the young girl, who spoke of a man running with a jaguar who would bring their downfall. Zero Wolf dismissed the prophecy, refusing to be swayed by superstition. He was adamant that Jaguar was running purely out of fear. The chase continued through the dense jungle well into the night. Even when Jaguar stopped to rest, the raiders persisted, using torches to light their way in the dark. Meanwhile, in the pit, Seven and her son Turtles Run encountered a sudden scare. Two monkeys tumbled from the trees above, one falling into the pit. Though it seemed lifeless, it suddenly sprang to life and lunged at Seven. She quickly killed it, calming her son, who was startled but remained strong with her by his side. The chase resumed at dawn, with the raiders relentlessly pursuing Jaguar. Along the way, one of them was bitten by a venomous snake. Within minutes, he succumbed to the venom, using his final moments to say farewell to his comrades. The raiders left him behind and pressed on. Jaguar narrowly avoided capture multiple times, using his knowledge of the jungle to evade his pursuers. Eventually, he found himself trapped between the raiders and a high waterfall. With no other choice, he leaped from the waterfall into the river below. Against all odds, he survived and stood on the riverbank, shouting defiantly at the raiders. He declared that they were now in his homeland, echoing the challenge his father once gave the refugees earlier in the story. Zero Wolf, unimpressed, killed Snake Inc. for daring to suggest they climb around the side of the waterfall instead of jumping. Insisting they continue the chase, he led the raiders over the waterfall. One of them didn't survive the fall. Jaguar fled deeper into the jungle, eventually stumbling into a pool of black quicksand. Struggling to stay afloat, he carefully swam through it and managed to escape. Emerging from the pool, now coated in black mud, Jaguar embraced a new resolve. He would become the hunter instead of the hunted. Using his newfound camouflage, Jaguar disabled his pursuers by throwing a hornet's nest into their midst. The coating of mud protected him from the stings as the raiders scattered in pain and chaos. Meanwhile, back in the pit, Seven attempted to hook a looped rope onto the edge to climb out but repeatedly failed. Finally, with the help of her son, Turtles Run, she succeeded in securing the rope and began climbing out. Returning to the hunt, the dynamic shifts. Jaguar, once the hunted, now becomes the hunter. He carefully extracts poison from a tree toad, crafting darts for his next move. Using his cunning, he leaves misleading tracks and circles back to the same spot, now hidden and ready with his poison-tipped darts. The sound of rain threatens to break his focus as his thoughts turn to his wife, Seven, still trapped in the pit cave. She struggles desperately to climb the rope she had secured earlier but fails. To make matters worse, she begins to feel the pangs of labor. Meanwhile, Jaguar uses his poison darts to strike a raider. The man screams, alerting the next raider, Middle Eye. As Jaguar attempts to retrieve a weapon, he comes face to face with his longtime rival. A fierce combat ensues, their long-standing animosity fueling the intensity of the battle. Jaguar's survival instincts and skill once again prevail, but the rain becomes his true enemy. He knows the pit is flooding and his wife and son are in mortal danger. Her pain intensifying as the water starts to flood the pit. Jaguar sprints through the jungle, desperate to reach his family, all while being pursued by the remaining raiders. Back in the jungle, Jaguar is confronted by Zero Wolf. Despite being shot with another arrow, Jaguar lures Zero Wolf into one of his hunting traps. The trap impales and kills the leader, ending his relentless pursuit. With Zero Wolf gone, only 2 raiders remain. Though Jaguar is weakened and slowing, he presses on, determined to save his family. The situation in the pit worsens as water rushes in. 7, feeling the baby is coming, fights against the rising flood. Strengthened by her young son's encouragement, she improvises, stepping onto a stone to keep herself above the waterline. Amidst the chaos, she gives birth to her second child, pulling him out of the water just in time. The pursuit leads Jaguar to a beach, where all 3 are stunned by the sight of Spanish conquistador ships anchored off the coast. Men in armor are disembarking, their presence an eerie fulfillment of the prophecy spoken by the young girl, that a man running with a jaguar would bring the raiders to those who would end their world. The raiders, mesmerized by the strangers, allow Jaguar to escape. Jaguar rushes back to the pit and rescues 7 and their children. Despite the water, 7 has managed to protect both their son and newborn baby. As they reunite, the family looks out from the edge of the forest, watching the Spanish ships in the distance. 7 wonders aloud if they should approach the newcomers, but Jaguar firmly decides against it. Instead, he insists they return to the forest to rebuild their lives and find a new beginning. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to our channel and share your thoughts in the comments section. Your support is truly appreciated, my dear friends. Feel free to click on the next video. Thank you.